Andy Burnham has gone to war with the police. Today, the Police Federation threatened legal action against the Labour government over the early release of 2 remorseless cop killers. The 2 monsters guilty of the killing of PC Andrew Harper. There they are, yes, just smiling away as they're being led away. Now, Andrew Harper was an officer with Thames Valley Police, who today came out and openly criticised the Prime Minister.
I do worry about the morale, not just of my own organisation, the confidence.
Well, there you go. This is GB News Originals. I'm Emily Carver. Please do give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And do leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you think
of my 10,000 people who work with Thames Valley Police. So I'd urge the government to look again at this issue. I know it's a difficult situation because of the prison crisis that we have, but I would urge the government to look again, because I do think there is a risk of impacting public confidence in the criminal justice system.
Very rare for a police force to come out and say something like that about a Prime Minister, but it does get worse for the Prime Minister. It's emerged today that 9,300 domestic abusers are set to be released early, thanks to his government's decision. So how many women and children will be put at risk there? There's no way that you're telling me that the authorities are going to be able to keep tabs on all of them, and we actually know that this has backfired before. Domestic abuser Jason Hoganson was released early back in November 2024. He was then recalled to prison 24 hours later after immediately trying to contact the woman he was in prison for abusing. So far, Andy Burnham has let down the police and survivors of domestic abuse, but now it's emerged he's also letting down children who've been sexually abused. Initially, a lot of people misread headlines like this, mainly because people wrote quite dodgy-looking headlines, because it makes it sound there, doesn't it, like any rapist or any child sex abuser won't be released. But that's not true. What Labour has actually said is that only the serious child sex offenders won't be allowed out early. I'm sorry, is there any form of child sexual abuse that isn't serious? Unfortunately, Andy Burnham can't face questions about this because he decided to swan off on holiday. But if I was interviewing him, I'd just ask him to specify exactly which child sex offences he thought were unserious. And it's all warped, isn't it? And if you just want more evidence of how mental the justice system is, take a look at this. Yes, a police officer who shot gangland trigger man Chris Carber dead after the vile armed criminal tried to drive his car into police officers will now not face a misconduct hearing. That's good. That's the good bit, OK? That's not the bit that's warped. The warped bit, really, is this.
Today's decision by the IPC that after 4 years, NX121 will not be facing any misconduct hearing is welcome, but this has taken far, far too long.
Oh, it's taken far too long. Oh, I've always been on the side of this particular police officer. Personally, I just think that Mark Rowley and the Met actually can get stuffed, because watch closely here. You might recognise the police officer in this video, and this was taken shortly after the shooting of Chris Carber.
Firstly, I would like to offer my heartfelt condolences to the family of Chris Carber. I can't begin to imagine what they're going through at this difficult time for them as they try to come to terms with the loss of their loved one. I know there is a great deal of concern out there about this incident. The community are hurt and there is trauma.
That man is Alexis Boone, the bloke now in charge of Hampshire Police and the force which delayed administering first aid to Henry Novak because they believed his ethnic minority murderer instead of him. And Alexis Boone could not issue anything like the same emotion over that as he did after Chris Carber was shot and killed. Yeah, he was at the Met at the time, and he was apologising there to the family of Chris Carber, worried about the community. Oh, gosh, I know you've experienced trauma. Carber had actually shot a bloke in a busy nightclub not long before he himself was killed by a police officer who was just trying to protect himself and others. It actually also took a jury just a matter of hours to clear the police officer for murder. It's taken the IOPC 4 years now to clear his name entirely. And why did the CPS even charge him? I suspect simply because he shot a black man and they were worried about being called racist. The justice system in this country is absolutely rotten to the core, isn't it? Let's get the views of my panel on this now. Mark, we'll start with you, Mark.
The crumbling pillars of British justice. early prison releases, police outrage, and the Chris Kaba fallout. Welcome back to Britain Underneath, the home for sharp, uncompromising political analysis, where we look beneath the polished surface of Westminster and reveal the raw realities shaping our nation today. Before we dive into the heart of today's story, if you value serious, mature, and independent commentary on the standard of governance in the United Kingdom, please consider hitting the subscribe button and switching on notifications. Your support is the single most vital force helping this channel grow, bringing you the truth behind the headlines every single week. So please do subscribe now to support our work. Let us now examine a justice system that appears to be fracturing at its very foundations. Across the United Kingdom, a quiet crisis has escalated into an outright confrontation between law enforcement, political leadership, and the public. The headlines in recent days have exposed a criminal justice framework stretched to its absolute limit, leaving citizens wondering whether the balance of fairness has tipped away from protecting the innocent. At the centre of this storm is the controversial Early Prison Release initiative, designed to alleviate severe overcrowding in Britain's correctional facilities. However, the operational execution of this policy has drawn ferocious criticism from police federations, senior officers, and advocacy groups who argue that short-term administrative convenience is being prioritised over public safety. The tension reached a boiling point when representatives from law enforcement openly voiced dismay over the potential early release of individuals convicted in connection with severe crimes, including the tragic killing of Police Constable Andrew Harper. To see frontline officers and senior leadership publicise their lack of confidence in executive decisions is an extraordinary moment in modern British political history. When those tasked with maintaining order lose faith in the system that enforces it, the social contract itself begins to fray. It signals to the public that the government is managing symptoms rather than resolving fundamental structural defects. Take a moment to reflect on what this means for local communities when thousands of offenders are returned to society earlier than intended. Beyond the immediate friction with law enforcement, the policy has raised significant concerns regarding the release of individuals with histories of domestic abuse and non-violent offences. While officials insist that rigorous risk assessments are conducted prior to any release, past instances where individuals breached their conditions shortly after leaving custody have done little to reassure the public. Critics argue that probation services, already under immense pressure and resource constraints, are simply not equipped to monitor an influx of early releases effectively. When monitoring systems fail, the burden falls directly back onto frontline police officers and vulnerable victims who are left feeling exposed and disregarded by the state. If you are finding this breakdown insightful and want to stay informed on the issues that directly impact your safety and governance, please pause for a second, take a breath, and hit that subscribe button. It takes only a moment, but subscribing genuinely helps keep this channel independent and thriving. As if the prison capacity crisis were not enough to destabilise public trust, the prolonged aftermath of high-profile police operations continues to cast a long shadow over British law enforcement. The recent decision by the Independent Office for Police Conduct regarding firearms officer NX121, involved in the tragic shooting of Chris Kaba, marks the conclusion of a 4-year legal ordeal.
Look, there's obviously a couple of different aspects to this. Firstly, the early release scheme. Andy Burnham appears to have lost the support of Thames Valley Police, I suspect wider police forces as well. And, you know, he's accused now of letting down victims of domestic abuse and child victims of sexual abuse.
It's absolutely incredible, this. I know that the defenders of the Labour government will say, and it's a fair criticism, that the Conservatives didn't build enough prison places. But you've had 2 years to think through what your early release scheme might look like. And in rough terms, I think it's about 50% of the prison population are in there for violence or sex crimes. Well, I would completely discount that lot and look at the other 50%. There also doesn't seem to be any clarity around what the terms of an early release might be. I mean, for example, if you released someone, preferably not a child sex offender, but somebody who'd been involved, I don't know, in a robbery, and you said, well, you've actually got to stay at home or within a mile of your house, or if you've traumatised some innocent people in a particular town, you can't go within 10 miles of that town. None of these conditions appear to have been thought through either. It's absolutely extraordinary, because the overcrowding was a problem that this government inherited, but it's had 2 years to think through the solution, and Andy Burnham's making it up over his tea over a weekend. It's absolutely mad. So I'm unsurprised that the police force are worried about this, because in essence their workload goes up because they know a lot of crims are coming out of prison and will be in the community much earlier than was anticipated.
Yeah, when it was first released, I think it was misreported, actually. The headlines were poorly written about there'll be no rapists released or child sex offenders. But actually, when you read it, they say no serious child sex offenders. So what, just a little bit of child sex offending's OK, but we draw the line at something else. I find that really perplexing. The government now deciding, and we can't question him because he's on holiday. This is the thing, we can't say to him, sorry, Andy, which child sex offences do you think are OK?
Well, unfortunately, we've got a Prime Minister that becomes Prime Minister and then avoids going to Parliament, despite having the opportunity to go to Parliament, chose not to, chose to muddle around with that. Then all these horrific things are happening and we are getting misleading headlines, of course, from the establishment Westminster media that don't like to tell the British people the truth. If they do that, there would be a problem in this country, because I think if people knew what's really going on in this country, we would see civil unrest. And then, of course, we then have the situation here where we've got a Prime Minister who I don't actually think he's that bothered about prisoners being released early. What he's bothered about is that the public might start turning on him a bit quicker than he thought. Already we've seen the Burnham bounce isn't a thing. Already we're seeing that he is incredibly unpopular with his choices of government appointments. So I think what Burnham will be doing is trying to hide. And, I mean, by the way, how on earth is that bloke on holiday right now? He's just become Prime Minister. I mean, most normal people, when they get a job, don't go on annual leave within a few weeks. I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
Of workers' rights,
and I've got nothing against people having a rest. But the point about this story, I think, and I think particularly with this police officer here, is we have a serious situation in this country where the police are bothered about offending absolutely everybody apart from white people. That's the truth of the matter. Heterosexual white people, even worse so. We've got a situation in this country where people are too scared to talk about radical Islam because they might be called Islamophobic, which is not a real world. They try to talk about the fact that actually we should do stop and search, but oh no, that's really offensive towards black people. The reality in this country is the police, and by the way, police officers tell me this. Police officers, then they'll get sacked if they say it at work, but they tell me, Essex police officers in particular, and police officers in a Met that live in Essex, that are also my residents, tell me they are so scared to speak the truth at work because the institutional bias is unbearable. But these people have got mortgages to pay. And so what we need to see, and I hope police officers do this, I hope we start to see them actually whistleblow what is really going on in our police forces, because the institutional bias against white people is horrendous.
Well, OK, we'll focus on the early release thing and we'll come on to the Chris Cabba police officer in a second. But this early release thing is going south pretty quickly for Burnham, isn't it? I mean, Thames Valley Police to come out today and...
People are trying to stick things to Burnham at the moment because everybody's desperate to bring him down just as he started. He started well. He's announced... plans every single day since he started. And he's entitled to a holiday. The man probably hasn't slept in months. And we need a Prime Minister who is fresh and who can come back and make decisions. Always is the time when most people are on holiday. This is the easiest time to take a holiday. If he took a holiday in the middle of something where it was, Parliament's not sitting... How can you grudge the man a holiday? He needs to recharge his batteries and come back. And anybody... I mean, you're sneering, Jamie.
I'm laughing because I can't keep my straight
Patrick,
face.
there's times when you've been on your absolute knees and you have needed a holiday and you've taken a holiday and nobody's castigating you. We've all been in that...
I did also cancel my honeymoon to report on the general election, though.
Well, fair enough, but that wasn't necessarily for fatigue, was it?
No.
But the country's
would have been nice, wouldn't it?
No.
I was really looking forward to that honeymoon.
No.
So selfish.
No.
When you're head of...
While the jury cleared the officer of murder in a matter of hours, The institutional process required 4 full years to deliver a definitive administrative conclusion. This prolonged uncertainty has sparked intense debate over how the United Kingdom investigates its own firearms officers. The core argument surrounding this case is not merely about a single incident, but about the systemic strain placed on specialised officers who must make split-second decisions under life-threatening conditions. When an officer faces years of legal jeopardy, potential career destruction, and public condemnation before a final verdict is reached, it creates a chilling effect across the entire force. Senior figures within policing have expressed concern that highly trained officers may begin to hesitate in critical moments, worried more about legal repercussions than protecting the public or themselves. A police force hesitant to act due to administrative fear is a force rendered fundamentally less effective. At the same time, the broader debate highlights the delicate balance between accountability and support for law enforcement. Communities legitimately demand transparency, rigour, and impartiality when a citizen loses their life during a police operation. However, when investigative processes stretch over several years, the process itself becomes a form of punishment for everyone involved, including the family of the deceased, who are left waiting years for final closure. The current framework appears to satisfy no one, leaving both police officers and local communities feeling alienated by an overly bureaucratic apparatus that moves at a sluggish pace. This broader environment of institutional hesitation and political manoeuvring raises difficult questions about the direction of governance in modern Britain. When political leaders choose to avoid direct scrutiny during times of policy implementation, public scepticism naturally deepens. The absence of clear, unequivocal communication from government ministers regarding which offences qualify for early release has allowed confusion and alarm to spread. Transparent leadership requires facing difficult questions directly, rather than relying on carefully managed public statements while key figures are away from the front line. Consider the reality facing the average citizen today. On one hand, taxpayers are told that court backlogs are at historic highs, prisons are overflowing, and early releases are an unavoidable necessity. On the other hand, citizens observe that when law enforcement officers perform their duties under extreme stress, the legal system takes years to resolve their status. This stark contrast illustrates a profound misalignment of priorities within the justice apparatus. It suggests a system that is reactive, risk-averse, and increasingly disconnected from the practical realities of community safety and public order. To truly understand Britain underneath the political rhetoric, one must examine the cumulative effect of these policies on national morale. A society functions smoothly when its citizens believe that wrongdoing is appropriately penalised, that victims are prioritised, and that those who enforce the law are treated fairly by the state. When any part of that equation breaks down, public confidence erodes rapidly. The current intersection of prison overcrowding, early release schemes, and protracted police investigations represents a critical test for the current administration, one that cannot be resolved through media management or temporary fixes. Rebuilding trust will require long-term structural investment in correctional infrastructure, comprehensive reform of investigative procedures for law enforcement, and a renewed commitment to prioritising victim safety above administrative expediency. Until political leaders address these underlying structural flaws, the friction between government policy, police forces, and the public will only continue to intensify. It is precisely these deep structural issues that we will continue to monitor and analyse right here. As we navigate these complex political times together, staying informed with mature, balanced analysis is more important than ever. I strongly encourage you to watch our videos right through to the end so you never miss the critical context behind these major national developments. If you have made it this far, please take a moment to subscribe to Britain Underneath. Your subscription is essential for supporting our ongoing work and ensuring we can continue delivering the serious standard of commentary you deserve. Thank you for watching today. Please subscribe now, stay informed, and make sure to return for our next analysis as we continue to uncover the truths shaping the United Kingdom.